All right, everybody. I am Scotty J, and you are watching Rock Titan Live. We got an amazing guest with us right now, and dare I say, this man has actually been an inspiration to me in where I hope my career one day actually goes. You know him as the host of hardDrive. He's been one of the most prominent DJs, like for the last 30 years at the very least. He's got amazing stories. He's got a brand new book out right now, and he's really responsible for introducing you, the public, to some of the greatest metal hard rock bands that we know today and that you love. Everybody, Lou Brutus.
Thank you very, very much for having me on, and thank you for those kind words that I will never be able to fucking live up to.
Well, you've already done it, my friend. You've already done it. Man, so obviously we can tell by the backdrop there, you got a brand new book out.
Oh, really? What was? Gee, what was the
Brand
giveaway?
new book
Oh,
out.
there you go.
Yeah,
I'm
Sonic
such a
Warrior.
whore.
Sonic Warrior, My Life as a Rock and Roll Reprobate, Tales of Sex, Drugs, and Vomiting at Inopportune Moments.
Yeah, it's like you said, I've been doing this for an extremely long time, which is weird to me because well, you're in the Philadelphia area, so you're very familiar with the radio station that I was lucky enough to start at when I was just a kid, 93.3 WMMR. And for folks who are unsure about that around the world who are watching, it was one of the original FM rock radio stations on the planet. The first wave of late 60s rock stations included WNEW FM New York, which is gone, and WMMR in Philadelphia, which is the last one left. Anyway, I was just a kid getting to work there, and I'm like 17 years old interviewing Pink Floyd. Like, I didn't know 17-year-olds weren't supposed to be doing stuff like that, or hanging out backstage with the Grateful Dead or Black Sabbath or whoever else it may have been. So that was a really fortuitous start for me. But anyway, the book covers all of, or I shouldn't say all, but just a small portion of the crazy, wonderful things I've gotten to do in my career and in my life. Each chapter is a standalone story. It's not chronological. It's like, if you and I were at the bar after covering a festival, we would trade what we call rock and roll war stories. And hey, I ever tell you about the time that I was in the Arctic with Metallica and
Okay,
Courtney
all
Love
right, Lou, you're killing me now.
spilled a drink, and that's what my book is filled with.
Right.
Each chapter title is sort of long and involved and crazy. And because I've been fortunate enough to do this for so long and at such a level with a lot of great artists, I just have a lot of crazy stories. But it all goes back to those early days in Philadelphia at WMMR. Actually, the first chapter in the book is sort of the biograph chapter. It's entitled "The Time I Attended My First Concert and Threw Up on Carlos Sanchez," and it's about my very first concert, Black Sabbath, Ted Nugent, Madison Square Garden, December '76. Had the flu. Got excited after Nugent set, so downed an entire bottle of Boone's Farm strawberry wine in one throw, passed out, missed Sabbath, woke up, started projectile vomiting all over my older sister Patty's boyfriend Carlos. And that's the opening of the book, and then everything else sort of comes from my career and my travels.
Yeah, and I love the layout. I love the layout of it because, kind of like you said, it's not chronological. So you could literally open up the book and you could jump to any particular chapter and just start right there,
Yeah. It was designed like that. And again, one of the good things from the reaction and the reviews have been off the chart, and the sales have been sales are on the charts. I've hit number one new book in a lot of charts for rock and roll stuff, which is great. Yeah, no, I'm kind of shocked, but really happy. I think partially because people need something fun to read right now, given all the circumstances. But again, much like if we were at the bar, the stories just jump around. It's not chronological. Each chapter is a self-contained story, and each one also contains an illustration. One of the things that bothered me as I was putting the book together was I didn't have photographs from all of the different events described in the book. Some of them were behind the scenes. Some were years ago. And the lack of consistency really drove me kind of crazy. So I reached out to a guy there in the Philadelphia area with you, a very old friend of mine named Alan McBain. And
Okay.
Alan and I have been doing work together for decades. He's a graphics artist. He's fucking brilliant, very Mad Magazine-esque. And I sent him some of the early chapters. And I asked him, hey, can you do some basic drawings and maybe we can do an illustration for each chapter of the book? And he can I show you a couple? I'll
Please.
show you a couple. Yeah.
Please.
I'm
Yeah.
just going to randomly find some. This is the illustration for the chapter, The Time Dave Grohl Proved Himself the Most Down-to-Earth Rock Star on the Planet.
Nice.
Oh,
check it.
And this is actually one of the nicer stories in the book. Some of them are just really crazy and grotesque and insane. But this one is just about how cool and down to earth Dave Grohl is.
Right
It takes place at Ravens Stadium in Baltimore. This chapter is from the time I went to the Arctic and got in a mosh pit with a bunch of kids in polar bear fur while Metallica sang about sodomizing the goat. We referenced that before. There's Metallica in the background. That's me down front with Courtney
awesome.
Love.
That is awesome.
And by the way, sharp-eyed folks who have followed me for a long time will recognize the seal. There's a seal there with a cigar. That is actually based on an old character of mine on the air, Sammy the Seal, who was an alcoholic talking seal. But Alan made sure that he was included in there. And I'll show you one other one. This is from the first chapter about going to Black Sabbath and throwing up on Carlos Sanchez.
Oh, my God.
There I am, puking on Carlos in December of 1976. Carlos, by the way, who I'm still in touch with, he's in California. He's one of the premier craft brewers in the United States. He's in Northern California by McKinleyville.
All right.
And he, as I've been doing Facebook Live events to read from the book, he pops onto some of them. So some people who have read about him getting puked on have actually met him via social media, which has been funny and been a blast.
Wow. Well, again, everybody, we're here with Lou Brutus, and he's one of the greatest DJs ever.
One of the greatest? No, it's
I'm being
a dick. Sorry,
we got some good ones in there, but no, certainly. I mean, you've been a pioneer in a lot of ways, and I know that aside from your DJ work, you've been really a program director for SiriusXM since its inception. Yeah. So again, for a lot of the bands, that we know and love today, you're responsible for introducing them to the audience. One thing I definitely have to touch on with you, Lou, the foreword of your book, written by, none other than Corey Taylor, Slipknot,
that
Stone
bastard,
Sour.
that rat bastard.
So obviously you guys got a really great history with one another. Why'd you choose him to do the foreword for your first book?
A lot of different reasons. First of all, and he and I love busting one another's balls, and that goes back to our very first meeting, which he references in the foreword. But there was no other choice for me to ask for the foreword. Corey has almost since we've met decades ago. Has been on me to write the book because, I'm older than him, which means I've seen a lot more bands than him, a lot of bands that are no longer around. And I have always loved holding that over his head. It's one of the things that I love to bust his stones about. And, as goofy as he and I get, he was also very serious behind the scenes going, listen, you've got to write a book. You've got to put all these stories down. It'll make a perfect book. You'll be a great writer. And he really was one of the people who lit a fire under my ass. And finally, on one of those occasions, he's like, where's your fucking book? When are you going to write a fucking book? And I'm like, I'll write a fucking book. You write the fucking forward. I'm going to write a book. You're going to write the big rock star fucking forward for my book. And he's like, fuck you. I'll write the fucking forward. So, and this went on for a while. And finally, about a year and a half ago, he came to me and said, hey, where's the book? I got the forward all ready to go. And I said, well, I want to make it longer. I want to add more chapters. I want more in it. And he looked at me like I was the dumbest guy on the planet. And he went, you fucking idiot. You just write another book after this one. Get the first one out. And it was right after that I got the deal with Rare Bird Books. And
nice.
Corey came right through with the chapter and did a fantastic job on it. He's a phenomenal writer on his own. His audiobooks are a scream. And he's just not only one of the great rock stars of our time and one of the great vocalists and frontman, he's also, he's a legit great human being. And it's safe to say the book would not exist without his urging and without his support. He shows up in a couple of the chapters. There's one chapter where I'm dressed as Hunter Thompson. I show up. I surprise the band at the closing night of the Subliminal Verses tour, and Corey and I are big Hunter S. Thompson fans. There's actually a Hunter S. Thompson chapter in the book. I had gotten to know Hunter a little bit, and we stayed in touch and had a couple of crazy adventures. But sometimes I would show up to Slipknot shows just dressed as Hunter Thompson, just to fuck around and be an idiot.
Oh my God, that's funny.
So I show up for the closing night of the Subliminal Verses tour in Madison, Wisconsin, and I'm going to MC the show. And you can read the whole story in the book, but Corey ends up stark naked on stage, except for a Slipknot mask and some black duct tape wrapped around his junk. Prancing like a pony amongst the guys in Shadows Fall. He's pranking them as they were the opening band. There's 10,000 people going crazy. Then his wife at the time shoves me out on stage after him, and I start swatting at the fake weenie with my Hunter S. Thompson fly swatter, and the Wisconsin State Police swarm the stage, and so that's one story. And the other story he shows up in is the chapter where we clipped a guy on the New Jersey Turnpike with our bus. I was traveling with Stone Sour at that time. So he's threaded in a couple of chapters in the book. And again, the foreword is great.
All right, so we got some good teasers here. Everybody.
Oh, yeah.
Sonic Warrior, My Life as a Rock and Roll Reprobate. Yeah, Corey Taylor, he's an interesting one, though, and it's funny because I actually have a very quick, interesting story myself.
Sure.
Some months back, I was kicking off Rock Titan Live. It was like literally my first show that I was doing as, Rock Titan Live. And I was supposed to be interviewing some of the guys from Megadeth. And, again, this is a live show. So you know how it is, when you're scheduling people and schedules change and stuff like that, you just need to adapt. Long story short, they had to reschedule. I'm like, oh my God, I had my entire show based around talking to these guys. What am I going to do? So this is like an improv moment. And right at that point in time, news had come out. There was, it was more like a TMZ type thing that Corey had been singing so loud that he ruptured a testicle, or that he said he ruptured a testicle. You probably know what I'm referring to. So that's what I actually ended up talking about the entire show. I'm like, is it possible to actually sing loud enough to rupture a testicle?
And of course he had not, but it's kind of believable when you first hear it. It's like, well, I don't, it's not probable, but it's not impossible,
Right.
So yeah. Oh, that's a fucking hoot.
What are you gonna do? Life gives you lemons. I
you
did the best
lemonade.
I could.
And you know what? That's one of the things about the book coming out at this time. For example, this week I was supposed to be on the initial dates of the book tour, and postponed for obvious reasons. But that pushed me more into doing the Facebook Live events and the virtual book tour, and they've gone over like gangbusters. Like, I'm really shocked. So you do the best you can with the cards you're dealt. And as I've said, I've tried to say it in every interview I've done. If the biggest problem I have to deal with through this health crisis is that some fucking book tour dates get postponed, I'm a super lucky human being. And the other thing that seemingly has come out of this is, people are trapped at home and they're looking for something to read. And they're also looking for something that's maybe makes them happy, and something that takes their mind off things, and maybe something musically oriented, because we can't go to concerts, so you may as well read about them. And there's been an overwhelming response from people who are like, oh my God, this book saved me. It gave me a break. I've been worried about work, I've been worried about the virus, I've been worried about the economy, so it's been a nice break for folks. And this might sound silly and self-serving, and I apologize if it
Hey,
does.
this is your time, Lou. This is your time.
No. It's I'm appreciative of all the healthcare workers,
Right.
all of the food people who raise food or animals or stock the grocery shelves. But also, I am super appreciative of the people from the post office or UPS or FedEx who are making sure that people are still able to get things at home. Which also includes my book, of course, not limited to that. And I try and mention all of those folks each time I can on the air each night on my on hardDrive or hardDrive XL, as well as when I'm doing interviews. I'm deeply indebted, and I say that with the utmost sincerity. It really means a lot to me.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, let's touch on some of that really quick because, we're in this time of social distancing. The tour season has been thrown into a complete state of disarray because, of course, right now, we'd be at the height of it. I think by now we would have had WMMR's, if show that they do every single year down there at the Camden Waterfront. And,
Yeah.
I mean, for you, I hate to use the term concert whore. That sounds kind of perverse in some ways, but my God, you've seen more
It's true.
concerts. You've seen more concerts than probably anyone ever will. I mean, you've got to be like in the Guinness Book of World Records for something like that. All that being said, I mean, you've been there. You've seen so much transition, evolution of the music industry, how artists make a living, and of course today, that's in touring. What are some of your feelings about how this coronavirus and the need to social distance, to be safe, has affected so many people in a business that is at the heart and soul of who you are?
It's certainly decimating the entire industry right now. And I know there are some naysayers who are like, oh, fuck the millionaire rock stars. They're not suffering. But you have to understand that, yeah, there are some musicians in all genres. And if they're in that upper crust, yeah, they make really good dough. And they're probably set to weather the storm better than other folks, but
Right.
the overwhelming number of musicians do not make tons of money. And it can be a hard scrabble existence for even bands that are fairly well known. And that's just the musicians. The overwhelming number of people who work in the concert industry are not stars. They're not even musicians. They are crew people. They are roadies. They are the ticket takers. They are the people who work behind the scenes. What about the people who work concessions? There are literally tens of thousands of people who work in this industry that generates billions of dollars in tax revenue, and they are fucking wiped out right now.
Yeah, man.
So before anybody starts bitching about, whoa, rock stars, who cares about the concert industry? Rock stars, they've got plenty of money. That is an incredibly ignorant fucking thing to say.
Wow.
And the overwhelming, like 99.9% of people who work in the live music industry are really in a bad way right now. And wherever you can, support them. And I understand it's insane for a lot of folks, but if there's anything that you can do, even in a small way, then hopefully you can do it. And I say that full knowing that there's just a lot of horrible shit going on, but at the very least, don't lowball the problems going on with people in the live entertainment industry, because it's really, really bad for them, as it is with many others. But again, you and I deal with the live music industry, which is why we bring it up.
Yeah, no, it's bro. Is there anything specific that you might be able to kind of recommend to everybody in terms of how they can support all of these rather unsung heroes that contribute to the live entertainment business? Is there anything that we can do really to support them right now?
Billboard.com has a pretty good list of charities and initiatives.
Okay.
Also, the folks at NARIS, who are the Grammy Awards, have put some stuff up. Now, sir, and I'm a Grammy Award voter, and I certainly have problems with the Grammy Awards and the
Mm,
way they sort of very poorly treat anything in the rock genre. But we
wow.
need to put shit like that aside for right now. And the only other thing I would say is, check on social media for all your favorite bands and artists. Many of them are doing individual things for their own crew members. Some of them are able to step up, and some of them are creating things that maybe fans can help out with. And again, if you can help, great. If you can't help, if you're in a tight way yourself, that's perfectly understandable too. But you can't fault the bands for trying. My friend Johnny Chow, who plays a phenomenal bass player, probably best known these days for Stone Sour, recently opened a great arcade and restaurant in his hometown of Buffalo. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, Mizuta Chow's.
Okay.
And they, like many other places, had to close up. And he's got a charity thing on the side to help raise money for the staff members who are out of work right now. So you can hit the Mizuta Chow's website, and that would help. But any number of artists have created any number of initiatives. A lot of venues around the country. Check on your favorite venue
Right on.
nearby, and they might be doing something. Again, try and help out locally. And even if it's in a small way, even if it's like sharing something on social media, do it. There's a million ways that you can help, and it doesn't cost you a cent if things are tight for you. So, yeah, I'm glad that you asked about that. And, you know, as grim as things are in many respects right now, I fully believe we're going to get through this. It's like any other problem. You're going to solve it. Hopefully it happens sooner rather than later, but I have every confidence that we will get around this and we'll be back at shows again. Hopefully, sooner rather than later.
Right on, right on. Well, one of the things that I love about your book, just getting back to it real quick, and again, everybody, we're here with Lou Brutus, and he's got his new book out, Sonic Warrior. Everybody, definitely go check it out. We're all home right now for the most part. You need some good reading material. This is definitely it. I love how, in talking about supporting a lot of those people behind the scenes in the live music industry, you really you detail that in the very beginning of your book. You break everything
Oh,
down,
yeah.
like all the different roles, but not just like the band members themselves, but the tour managers and the sound techs and everybody that contributes to the overall experience. So I thought that was really cool. So everybody, that's just one more reason to go out and buy Lou's book, because you kind of you get his perspective on all the key contributors to, what makes this live music scene really tick. And it just goes on to further explain why they need our support now more than ever, so that when things do pick up again, they can all kind of hit the ground running and are no worse for wear. I know you got to get going, but with your life experience, as a professional, one of the things that I'm curious about, and then we'll let you go, but I think a lot of people would love to hear this from you. Bands that have made it huge that
Mhm.
you didn't necessarily think would, versus those that never did make it that you knew about, that
Oh, man.
you felt should have been big time. Just one in either category. Do you have one band that made it really big that you were kind of surprised that they did, and then one that didn't that should have?
I mean, we could go for a full hour on these two subjects.
I know, we need more
Um,
time. We need more time. But
one band that has certainly got a great amount of success, but not nearly as much as they deserve, is Seven Dust.
hmm,
Seven Dust is one of the greatest hard rock bands of all time.
yeah.
And again, they're dear friends of mine. I was the first to put them on the air from coast to coast. I've traveled with them. I've known them. I hang out with their families. I love them all dearly as people and musicians, but they just do not get the respect or the positive notoriety that they should. Another band that I would put in the same vein from a previous generation, another band that I dearly love that is one of my favorites, is Cheap Trick.
Mm.
Cheap Trick is one of the greatest rock and roll bands in history. They're as good as the Beatles, Led Zeppelin, the Stones. Cheap Trick is probably America's best straight up rock and roll band. And I'll fight anybody who says otherwise.
I'm not gonna
Um,
fight you.
no, oh yeah, and they're the greatest guys in the world. And
Very cool.
I think to date they're the last show that I saw, And they're a band. If you go to their website, you'll see tons of my photography on there too, because I travel with them all I can, and interview and photograph them. As for bands that surprised me by making it, that's a great question. I might, a band that I loved, and another band that I broke nationally, and they've always been good to me, even when they became one of the biggest bands in the world. But I was pleasantly two bands. One, of course, would be Slipknot.
Okay.
Nobody else supported them on the radio for the first year and a half, like I did. It wasn't until the end of that debut Roadrunner album cycle that the rest of the world really started to catch on to them. And I mean, they had a great fan base, but they were still playing, places like the 930 Club and decent sized venues, but not big places. And it wasn't until the end of that they blew up. And I remember a lot of industry people I knew were like, Slipknot, they're a fucking gimmick. They wear masks. Fuck this band. I'm like, listen, I don't give a fuck what you think. I think they're one of the greatest bands I've ever heard. So I just kept hammering away and supporting them. But another band that I was super pleasantly surprised was Linkin Park.
Oh, wow. All right.
Because when they first hit, people have to understand there weren't a whole lot of bands that were sort of creating an amalgam from different genres.
Right.
Korn had done it. POD had done it. POD is a phenomenal band, by the way. And you might be able to say they were the first ones to do new metal, rap rock. Whatever the fuck you want to call it.
Right.
I hate terminology.
Yeah.
But POD was one of the bands there first. But there wasn't a whole lot going on in that genre. And then in steps Linkin Park, and multiple vocalists and multi instrumentalists, and they were great guys and a phenomenal band. I loved the band and started supporting them from before day one. But I would not have earmarked them at becoming one of the biggest bands in the world. But again, I long ago gave up on trying to figure out how that shit works, because quite frankly, bands that I think aren't going to become big, become huge, and bands that I dearly love and think, oh my God, they're the greatest thing I've ever seen. They either get no success or not enough success. And, fucked if I know what's going on. The longer I'm in this business, the more I realize the less I know. So I sort of just keep my mouth shut. I talk about the things that, I think are good. And I just try and honestly point out really good bands and other things in pop culture, film and TV mostly. But, essentially I'm 98% about music. So I just keep listening to everything that comes out of all genres and just try and keep up on things. And, when I find stuff I really like, I just start telling people about it, and hopefully it works out. That's there's an early part of the book where I'm on the floor of my family's living room in Englishtown, New Jersey, and I'm watching TV for the bands and stuff. And my dad said, "Son, be the pointer." And I said, what do you mean, Dad? Well, what's a pointer? And he was talking about the Ed Sullivan Show. And he said, son, I can see that you're already interested in entertainment. It's not steady work. He said, every week there's a different band, or there's a different actor, or there's a different juggler, or whatever entertainers are on the show. They come and go. He said, but the host of the show, all he does is point. He has no talent. All he does is go, and here's the band. Here's the actor. He said, so if you're going to be in entertainment, be the pointer. Right. And that's essentially what I've done. So, Sonic Warrior is the name of the book, because that's kind of a badass description of what I do. But the other terms that I've always sort of applied to what I do for gainful employment are professional music fan, because that's essentially what I am. I'm just a fan who went pro. And pointer. What do you do for I'm a pointer. I point. I point out good music. I point out good bands. I point out great TV shows, and that's what I do. And I'm so lucky that I get to do it. You have no idea how fortunate I feel every fucking day of the week.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I know that I aspire to be you, and I'm sure there are other, much younger folks than I
Oh,
am. That
stop.
now I'm telling you, Lou, seriously. I mean, one should be so fortunate to be able to make a living doing what they truly love. I think that truly is the dream, to be able to make a living doing what you love, and even though it's a job, it's not necessarily considered work because you love
Yeah,
it so much. You know what I mean?
that's the whole secret to life. I mean, and for as tough as things are at the moment, the United States, which has tons of problems, but this really is the land of opportunity. And
Right.
in the United States, you can figure out a way to make a fucking buck doing anything. And I was a kid who did nothing but sat around, ignored my schoolwork, and listened to music and memorized liner notes through grade school and high school. But I was able to turn that into a living,
Right on.
So the thing is, if you find something that you like, figure out a way to make a living at it, and then you gotta work hard, and you gotta be lucky, and you hopefully have a knack for it as well. But you know, you just got to go for it. It's like anything else in life. I try and live my life like Groundhog Day, where you get up and just cram every second of the day with cool shit. And that's why, I do the radio stuff and the photography stuff and the online stuff. And, the couple of crazy bands that I'm in, the Dead Schembecklers and the Grumpy Old Punks. I mean, every
Yes.
day, I get up. I don't really drink. I don't do any drugs. I drink black coffee. I listen to loud music, and I try and cram every bit of the day with cool shit, and that's how it works for me. So
Right on. Right on. Well, I know you got to get going. Man, I could talk to you all day. I could probably talk to you
well, let,
all.
let, let, let's set up another one. Let's do it again. Well, I mean, I'll talk about shit in the book all day long, but again, thanks for the chance to plug it. Thanks
Oh,
for
Lou,
the time.
my honor, my privilege. Thank you so much for joining us. And again, everybody, we are here with legendary Lou Brutus. And tune into the hard drive, with Lou Brutus. Tune into it all
Yeah.
week long. And his new book, Sonic Warrior. Go get it. Great read. I'm, close to halfway through it right now, and it is entertaining. And Lou, please be safe, just continue doing your part, so we can't have you getting sick, man.
Yeah. Avert. Yeah. Don't even
Yeah.
say that. No, just be well. Steer clear of things, and again, like I said before, we'll get through this.
Yeah.
We'll get through this. It's just a matter of time and doing the right things and handling it well. But I thank you very, very much for the opportunity, and also for the insanely kind words and
I
for
mean
the
it.
support. And again, I've one last shameless plug. Sonic Warrior. You can get it from bookshop.org. You can get it from Amazon, Barnes and Noble. Rare Bird Lit is my publisher. I think they still have autographed copies still available. They might, I think, need to send more. I think we sold out of close to 1,000 pre-orders that were
That's
signed.
awesome, man.
So that's good news.
That's awesome.
Also, Kindle edition is available. All ebook variations are there, and also I voice the audiobook myself. That is available via Audible, Google Play, iTunes, or anywhere else that you get audiobooks. So thank you very, very much. Buy my fucking book.
Yes, everybody. You heard it from the man himself. We got to have a sequel to this. We got to have a follow up for sure. So I don't know how we make
Set it
that
up.
happen, but we got to do it.
Yeah, let's do something maybe next month, and we'll see how the book is doing at that point. And thank you to everybody who's supported me through the years with all my radio and media stuff, and now with the book. And also, please be sure to leave a review for the book. And when you get a copy of it, take a picture with it. Tag me on it. Use the hashtag Sonic Warrior. I love seeing it. And take care. And also thank you on behalf of Darla the Wonder Dog. If I didn't mention her, my Yorkie poo, she would get very mad. So there you go.
Right on. All right, everybody. Well, I'm Scotty J, Rock Titan Live here with Lou Brutus.
Yeah.
We're out.